No Premier's press conference after this year's NPC session. In South Korea, authorities start inspecting hospitals to take legal action against striking trainee doctors. And U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris hits out at Israel for a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza. Hello and happy Monday. The second session of the 14th National People's Congress will commence tomorrow with Premier Li Qiang set to deliver his annual government work report. This as the NPC spokesman announced that the Premier will not hold a press conference after the close of the annual session. Timothy Lee has our top story.
In preparation for the upcoming second session of the 14th National People's Congress, NPC spokesperson Lo Qin-jian introduced the agenda of the meeting to the press today. The session will last 7 days, with Premier Li Qiang set to deliver an annual government work report on the first day. The political body will also review the state of the nation's economy, drafts for planning societal development, and clarification of the nature and status of the State Council, as well as budget estimates. The session will end next Monday afternoon. Unlike previous sessions, the Premier will not hold a press conference at the close of the session. NPC spokesperson Lo Qin-jian noted that such press conferences will not be held in the coming years, besides under special circumstances. This, as Lo said, the NPC will increase the number of press conferences involving its ministers, as well as opportunities for the press to interview ministers during the so-called corridor interviews on the walkways leading to the main hall of the Great Hall of the People. The post-session press conferences with the Premier have been part of tradition since as early as 1988, when former Premier Li Peng met with the press after the first session of the 7th National People's Congress. Veteran Hong Kong political commentator Lau Siu-kai believes the nation's lackluster economy is behind the cancellation. He added there is a chance that foreign media will make more slanderous reports about the Chinese economy if a press conference were to proceed like before. Regarding concerns raised by foreign media about China's military budget reaching a new high, Lo stressed the spending remains relatively low compared with that of the U.S. When asked about how certain countries have used such measures as sanctions and decoupling to compete against China in the high-tech industry, the NPC spokesperson said such attempts will only hamper the progress of global technological development. He added that while competition is normal, China will continue to advocate for free and open partnership in the global scientific community. Timothy Lee, TVB News.
The spokesperson for the National People's Congress stressed the legislative body's firm support for Article 23 legislation in the SAR. NPC spokesman Lo Qin-jian said it is Hong Kong's constitutional duty to complete the legislative work as soon as possible to safeguard national security. The spokesman noted the central government will continue to support Hong Kong's integration into the overall development of the nation. Meanwhile, the Ministry of State Security said on its WeChat account that Article 23 legislation would only target a small minority of individuals engaged in activities that endanger national security. Chief Executive John Lee arrived in Beijing earlier today and will attend tomorrow's opening ceremony of the annual session of the National People's Congress. He met with Minister of Finance Lan Fo-an on his first day in the capital. The CE departed from the SAR this morning. He was accompanied by Secretary for Financial Services and the Treasury Christopher Hui during his meeting with the mainland finance minister. Lee then visited the SAR government's office in Beijing, where he witnessed a signing ceremony between the Hong Kong Jockey Club, the National Health Commission, and the Department of Health on strengthening training for healthcare personnel. The CE will return to the city on Wednesday. The second session of the 14th National Committee of the Chinese People's Political Consultative Conference, or CPPCC, began in Beijing today. The event was attended by President Xi Jinping and the nation's other top officials. CPP-CC Chairman Wang Huning announced in a work report that the mainland last year successfully tackled both internal and external challenges. These include implementing transitional COVID-19 prevention measures and achieving economic development goals. Wang noted that the political body made several suggestions over the past year to modernize the industrial system in accordance with arrangements made under the 20th National Congress. In South Korea, authorities will start inspecting hospitals in order to take legal action against trainee doctors who ignored last week's deadline to end their strike. Around 9,000 resident and intern doctors, or about 70% of the country's total, have walked off the job for 2 weeks, protesting against a government plan to increase medical school admissions. Senior doctors showed their support for junior doctors on Sunday by holding a massive rally in Seoul. Tracy Furness has more.
Thousands of senior doctors rallied in Seoul Sunday, chanting and holding up placards criticizing the government. They are supporting striking junior doctors who oppose the government's plan to increase medical school intakes by 2,000 a year.
저희가 요구하고 있는 바는 원점 재논의입니다.
President of Seoul Medical Association Park Myung-ha called out the government for lying. The government says it has discussed the issues many times with doctors, but it's a lie. The president says they won't reconsider the plan, Park said. The rally came as the government is set to take steps to suspend medical licenses of nearly 9,000 medical interns and residents Monday for defying government orders to end their walkout, which has led to hundreds of cancelled surgeries and other treatments. Officials say South Korea's doctor-to-population ratio is one of the lowest among developed countries. But many doctors say medical schools cannot handle such a sharp increase in the number of proposed students. Doctors also say the recruitment plan does not address a shortage in essential but low-paying specialties like pediatrics and emergency departments. In a televised address, the country's health minister held out an olive branch to the strikers, saying if protesting doctors returned to work, they would reconsider legal action against them. Tracy Furness, TVB News.
South Korean and U.S. militaries began their annual military drills today with twice the number of troops compared to last year, officials said. The exercises are aimed at countering North Korea's nuclear threats. The 11-day Freedom Shield drills are the first since Pyongyang walked out of a 2018 inter-Korean military pact in November. The drills will also involve 48 field exercises, double last year's amount, and includes air assaults and airstrikes. The allies hope to be prepared to identify and strike North Korean cruise missiles that are allegedly capable of carrying nuclear warheads. U.S. aircraft carriers may also be involved. Pyongyang, which has conducted more than 100 missile tests since 2022, says the drills are rehearsals for a nuclear war. U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris hit out at both Israel and Hamas during a Bloody Sunday anniversary speech on Sunday. It was the harshest criticism of the Jewish state so far by a senior U.S. leader in the wake of the Flower Massacre last week, when more than 100 Palestinians seeking food aid were reportedly killed by Israeli forces. Mediators say a 6-week ceasefire deal that includes the release of Israeli hostages is on the table and is just waiting for Hamas to accept. Nasvi Karim has more.
At the foot of the Edmund Pettus Bridge in Selma, Alabama, marking the 59th anniversary of the Bloody Sunday attacks on civil rights marchers, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris took on a tone different to any senior American politician since October 7th. Harris hit out at Israel for a humanitarian catastrophe in Gaza and last week's killing of more than 100 starving Palestinians trying to grab food from aid trucks.
We saw hungry, desperate people approach aid trucks, simply trying to secure food for their families after weeks of nearly no aid reaching northern Gaza. And they were met with gunfire and chaos. Our hearts break for the victims of that horrific tragedy.
Israeli negotiators reportedly failed to turn up for ceasefire talks in Cairo after Hamas refused to comply with the demand for a complete list of hostages still alive. Calling for an immediate ceasefire, Harris also criticized Hamas, telling the Palestinian group to accept the deal that Israel is amenable to and end the suffering of 2.3 million people in Gaza.
Hamas claims it wants a ceasefire. Well, there is a deal on the table. And as we have said, Hamas needs to agree to that deal. Let's get a ceasefire. Let's reunite the hostages with their families. And let's provide immediate relief to the people of Gaza.
With U.S. President Joe Biden at the Camp David retreat, Harris was due on Monday to meet Benny Gantz, a member of Israel's war cabinet who is in the U.S. without the permission of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Gantz's presence in the U.S. highlights the infighting within the ruling Israeli government, with Netanyahu reportedly warning him that Israel has only one prime minister. On the ground in Gaza, this mother, Rania Abu Anza, mourns the deaths of her 5-month-old twin babies, a boy and a girl. Praising God, she said she has no one left after her husband and 8 other members of her family were killed in an Israeli strike in the southern district of Rafah. It took 10 years and 3 rounds of in vitro fertilization for Rania to conceive. It took only a few seconds for her to lose it all. Nazri Karim, TVB News.
In U.S. politics, Nikki Haley has won the Republican primary in the District of Columbia, notching her first victory of the 2024 presidential campaign. Haley, the only remaining challenger to Donald Trump in the GOP nomination race, won about 63% of the vote versus 33% captured by the former president. Despite her early losses, Haley has said she would remain in the race at least through this week's Super Tuesday contest. NBC reports.
What a great crowd. Thank you.
The final sprint to Super Tuesday.
Now let's talk about what you need to do on Tuesday.
And what could be Nikki Haley's final stand.
Yes, I'm going to keep on fighting. I need you to go Tuesday and vote.
On the trail today in Vermont and Maine, 2 of the 15 states set to vote Tuesday when more than 800 delegates will be doled out.
Next up, as you know, Super Tuesday.
It comes after yet another sweep for Donald Trump, who notched caucus wins in Idaho and Missouri this weekend. Now barreling into Tuesday with his mind already on a general election rematch.
And this November, Virginia is going to tell crooked Joe Biden, you're fired, you're fired, get out of here.
And glancing blows at his sole GOP rival, Haley.
You know who Bird Brain is, right, Nikki?
Haley, for her part, reversing course on Meet the Press, now saying she may not keep a pledge she took to support the eventual Republican nominee.
I think I'll make what decision I want to make.
And Trump saying at his rally he doesn't want moderate Republican voters in his party.
We're getting rid of the Romneys of the world.
But Trump also stumbling at times.
Did you just see Maduro, Venezuela?
Mispronouncing Venezuela and seeming to say Barack Obama is the current president, not Biden.
And Putin, has so little respect for Obama that he's...
Still, Super Tuesday all but sure to install Trump as his party's standard bearer once more.
Supporting Daddy Trump. Donald Trump.
Even as he escalates and outright lies about immigration.
They're pouring into our country in addition to everything else. It's so crazy. Who would want this? Biden's conduct on our border is by any definition a conspiracy to overthrow the United States of America. That's what's happening.
Still ahead, Malaysia may renew the search for MH370 that went missing a decade ago. 2 drivers who got off their vehicles after a collision hit by an oncoming truck in Shatin. And a survey on the quality of life of women in the city. Welcome back. Malaysia may renew the hunt for MH370, the plane bound for Beijing that went missing without a trace a decade ago. A specialist company has proposed a fresh search in the southern Indian Ocean, where the Malaysia Airlines flight is believed to have crashed. David Garrett reports.
This Friday marks 10 years since flight MH370 disappeared. Relatives of those presumed dead were marking the anniversary of what has become one of the greatest aviation mysteries. The Malaysian Airlines plane travelling from Kuala Lumpur to Beijing dropped off radar. The Boeing 777 is thought to have crashed into the sea, but was never found, nor were the remains of passengers or crew. Loved ones lit candles for the missing 239. Those included more than 150 Chinese, 50 Malaysians, 7 from Indonesia and 6 Australians.
The aircraft has been unable to be located despite the extensive searches which took place in the southern Indian Ocean. So we understand that at this time it will be a very difficult time for people because they weren't given the certainty that would come with a successful search mission.
A search operation carried out between Malaysia, China and Australia found no trace of MH370. At a cost of $130 million, it was called off 7 years ago, with many questions left unresolved. A private search by a US robotics company, Ocean Infinity, also failed. The Texas firm is offering a new, no-find, no-fee proposal. The Malaysian government may try again.
We will certainly be happy to reopen, because I don't think it's an issue of a tactical or technical issue. It is an issue of affecting lives of people, and whatever need to be done must be done.
No reluctance. As I've mentioned numerous times, as far as Malaysian government is concerned, we are committed to that search, and the search must go on.
Some wept at the memorial as they heard the news. They may get answers and desperately needed closure.
I'm on top of the world, you know, it's what we wanted to hear, and we hoped for that for a very long time. And he's made a lot of promises to us in the fact that he will help find the plane.
There'll be someone will come forward and tell us what's really going on, the truth. That's all we want until we're longing for that, until today.
Fragments washed up in several coastal locations, but there is no definitive evidence of what happened to MH370 on March 8, 2014. David Garrett, TVB News.
One driver was killed and another was injured in a traffic accident on Tate's Karen Highway in Sha Tin this morning. It all began when a taxi collided with a private car, and when the two drivers got off their vehicles to reason with each other, they were hit by an oncoming truck. At around 10:30 a.m., the taxi was approaching the Shekmun roundabout when it changed lanes and hit a white private car. Footage provided by a viewer showed the two drivers having a conversation in the middle of the highway. A truck then crashed into the pair. They were sent to Prince of Wales Hospital for treatment. The 68-year-old private car driver was pronounced dead at the hospital, while the 53-year-old taxi driver suffered head injuries. Hong Kong Automobile Association President Ringo Lee reminded motorists to find a safe place before getting off their vehicles to talk about post-crash compensation. Apple Daily's former lead editorial writer Young Ching-ki said today that ex-media tycoon Jimmy Lai had instructed the outlet's editorial team to recruit more overseas commentary article writers. This is the 37th day of Lai's national security trial. The prosecution first mentioned the background of the third prosecution witness, former Apple Daily lead editorial writer Young Ching-ki. Young said he told his former boss the newspaper did not have enough authors for the commentary section. He said Lai asked him to find more overseas writers for the section, adding they would not fear the national security law and could ask tough questions. A research team has concluded that Hong Kong men often overestimate the ease by which women get by in society. The University of Hong Kong team conducted a survey on the quality of life of women and attitude of the public towards gender equality in the city. Mimo Singhai reports.
The survey was conducted between January and February involving 1,287 interviewees. 603 were men and 684 were women. The research team of the University of Hong Kong said they had combined and analyzed data from 2 international sources, the WHO Quality of Life Questionnaire Hong Kong version and UN Women Gender Equality Attitude Study. They focused on the aspects of access and control of social resources and opportunities, asking interviewees questions such as how easy they think it is for women to gain access to quality education and healthcare. The findings showed that men often think it is easy for women to obtain these resources. For instance, 84.4% of men said they think women can get quality education easily. 72% of women agreed that they can gain easy access to quality education. 68.2% of men considered the quality of women's basic healthcare was excellent, while 52% of women thought the same.
In our society, we still found that some of our ladies, they will experience the glass ceiling of further develop themselves. In reality, many of our ladies, and they expressed that it's not easy for them to go over the hurdles of developing themselves. To be honest, the rating of both women and men is not bad. There are some still, I would say, rigid gender stereotype perceptions among the male respondents in Hong Kong.
The Hong Kong Federation of Women's Centres, who also joined the research, highlighted the impact of gender labels on women.
Caregivers, unpaid care work is usually presumed to be performed by women at home. And it is the reality that more than 90-something, like more than 95% of unpaid homemakers in Hong Kong are women. For unpaid work, they don't have any income. They don't have money or financial resources that they could control.
The Hong Kong Federation of Women's Centres hopes the government can promote gender mainstreaming in the city. For instance, incorporate gender perspectives and needs when making policy and legislations. Memos 9, TVB News.
That's the news. Thanks for watching. Pearl Magazine is up shortly. Bye for now.